Greetings in Christ. This is your 3-minute Psalm devotion for Friday, April 17th. Our psalm this morning is Psalm 10. This psalm has 18 verses. I'm going to read a few of them, make a few comments. It's a psalm of prayer and a lamentation against the enemies of Christ, the enemies of the cross, as the Apostle Paul would put it in Philippians. Okay, so here's Psalm 10. I'll start reading a few verses and then move to the end of the chapter to read a few more. All right. Why, O Lord, do you stand afar off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? In arrogance, the wicked hotly pursue the poor. Let them be caught in the schemes that they have devised. For the wicked boasts of the desires of his soul, and the one greedy for gain curses and renounces the Lord. In the pride of his face, the wicked do not seek him. All his thoughts are, there is no God. His ways prosper at all times. Your judgments are on high, out of his sight. As for all his foes, he puffs at them. He says in his heart, I shall not be moved. Throughout all generations, I shall not meet adversity. His mouth is filled with cursing and deceit and oppression. Under his tongue are mischief and iniquity. Okay, now I'm going to skip a few verses to verse 13. Why does the wicked renounce God and say in his heart, you will not call to account? But you do see, for you note mischief and vexation, that you may take it into your hands. To you the helpless commits himself. You have been the helper of the fatherless. So note in the psalm how the helpless here, and really it's us Christians, the meek ones who need to cry out to God when we are feeling oppressed, when we are vexed, when we see the wicked prosper and do well, and the helpless and the little one be crushed. We need to cry out to God in times like this and leave it in his hands. And as the psalm teaches us, he will help us, okay? All right, so again, I said that this is a psalm of prayer and lamentation concerning the enemies of Christ. Who are the enemies of Christ? Let me just list a few. The arrogant unbeliever is the enemy of Christ. The one who lies, cheats, and steals to get ahead and seem to have it all and succeed and are comforted with all their material possessions. And you can gather this, for example, in verses 4 and 5. His ways prosper at all times. The enemies of Christ are also the corrupt church, the liberal church, who corrupt the world and corrupt the church with their lies and their deceit and their false teaching and teaching people to look to their own works instead of the works of Christ for salvation. And then also you could say that the enemies of Christ are the liberal state or the corrupt civil authorities that are in league with the corrupt church, and they are the ones who crush the helpless. You just have to think of abortion, for example, for how the state has been corrupted and crushed the helpless and sink down and make the helpless sink down. This is what happens with abortion. So all these things, the arrogant unbeliever, the liberal church, the liberal state, are all conspiring against the true believer and against the little group of faithful, the remnant. And we have to learn to cry out under their oppression. There's very little we can do, but God does it all, and he is going to hear our cries. Let's put our faith in him then and have confidence that he will hear the cries of the faithful believer in Christ. Have a blessed day in the Lord.